Fulham gave Manchester United a test of their own medicine with a late winner at Old Trafford, while Arsenal completed the perfect revenge against Newcastle. On the other side, Aston Villa had no kind words for Nottingham Forest, while Brighton were held at home against Everton. So, welcome back from all that matchday 26 Premier League action on Saturday. I hope you had a wonderful Saturday and you're having a great Sunday. Welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert K. Sarkos is my name. Thank you for those that take the time to watch our videos and those that have subscribed already. We greatly appreciate your endeavors. We do encourage our newcomers to also subscribe to the channel, like, share, and comment. So let's get straight into it and review all the action from Saturday on match day 26 of the Premier League. Remember, match day 26, like I did say in the preview, had already kicked off when Liverpool beat up against Luton Town. But yesterday, it did kick off at the Villa Park, where Aston Villa beat up against Nottingham Forest by 4-2. Ollie Watkins once again on the score sheet there to give Aston Villa the lead. But it was a midfielder, Douglas Luiz, that stole the show with a burst of his own. For a holding midfielder to score a burst, and not just off set pieces, but in open play, that is quite telling. Popping up from deep in the midfield to come into the box and be able to bang goals. You know, one was even a header. So, brilliant of football there, with Leon Bailey providing the assist, I think, for Ollie Watkins, while John McGinn did provide one for Douglas Luiz. And then, of course, at 3-0, it did feel that Aston Villa were in control of this match. But then Nottingham Forest did push their weight to get themselves back into the game. Musa Niakate on target there, off a corner. I think Timothy Awoniyi did head that ball back into his path for him to net the first consolation for this Nottingham Forest side. And then Morgan Gibbs-White did score the other early into the second half to make it 3-2 for the visitors. But in the 61st minute, Leon Bailey did score with Aston Villa capitalizing on a chance or on a squandering of that playing from the back thing that Nottingham Forest were doing to score their fourth. So it did finish 4-2 as Aston Villa strengthened their hold on that fourth position as they moved to 52 points on the Premier League table, as we will see how these results impacted the table standings after that action from the Premier League. So, brilliant action from the Villa Park. I think Unai Emery was pretty delighted with his side. Nuno Espirito Santo may have been delighted with the way his team tried to fight back, but will be greatly disappointed in the way they defended on the day. Really poor defending and conceding 4 on the evening there. And then still at the same time on the other side at Old Trafford, yes, Fulham gave Manchester United a test of their own medicine in a game where the visitors did dominate play, at least in my opinion. Man United, once again, they did have a great game, like we've observed them all season. Yes, sometimes they do manage to grind out the victories, but overall, when you assess the game, they often don't play well. When you look back at the game that they did beat Luton Town by 2-1, once again, it was one of those games where they had an interesting first half. The second half wasn't so exciting, although they did have some missed opportunities in there. But overall, Luton Town did not dominate the second half of affairs. Same applied to their 2-1 victory against Aston Villa. Yes, Aston Villa had, I think, the better side of things. They were the ones more threatening to always score. But in the end, Scott McTominay did steal it for Manchester United as they won by 2-1 at Villa Park. But once again, this time around, those kinds of performance could not hold out against the stubborn Fulham side. And Fulham managed to beat them by 2-1. Very interesting action there. Calvin Bassey scoring the first goal of the game to put Fulham in the lead, and basically that was it for the better part of the game. And then until the 89th minute, when Harry Maguire moved forward and scored the equalizer. I think that was his second time sort of popping himself in that kind of position, trying to find the equalizer for this Manchester United side. And indeed, he did find it when he netted that ball in the 89th minute to make it 1-1. We went into added time when it was 1-1. Added minutes, I think, were 9, and one would have thought that the game was sort of destined for a draw, a result that could have favored Manchester United, given how they did perform on the day. But for Fulham, they would have been disappointed in the manner that they conceded, first of all, such a late equalizer, but then they picked themselves up. Adama Traore, the former Wolves and Barcelona winger, did come on and went on a brilliant run and ended up providing the assist for Alex Iwobi. Slotted the ball past Andre Onana. He just was that moment where Onana sort of felt he was caught off guard. It was as if he was starstruck. He just froze in his position as Alex Iwobi slotted that ball in the back of the net. Harry Maguire scoring on the other side, but failing to defend the back of his own net this side, as they conceded a late winner against this Fulham side. So Marco Silva was pretty delighted with the performance of his side. Remember, in the first leg, Manchester United did beat Fulham by a goal to nil at Craven Cottage, with Bruno Fernandes scoring the late winner in the 91st minute. So once again, we had a stoppage time goal from Alex Iwobi that won all the 3 points for Fulham, who had come into this game when they were 12th in on that table standing. And then, of course, given how the results did go, I think Manchester United missed the opportunity to close on that gap against Tottenham Hotspurs, who sit above them in 5th place. Tottenham who are not playing this weekend because they were supposed to be playing Chelsea this weekend. But as we all know, and we will see later, Chelsea will be engaged in the finals of the Carabao Cup today at Wembley Stadium. And that game will be coming your way, I think, at around 6 p.m. East African time. So that was the result at Old Trafford. Things again are not looking pretty, but it is what it is. Do let me know what you thought of Manchester United's performance. For me, I did think it was way below average of their standards, especially if you're trying to finish in the top 4 and secure that Champions League slot. The other game, still at 6 p.m., was Brighton against Everton. Now, of course, Brighton, as we all know them, did quite dominate the affairs, but could not find the back of the net. And the first half was a barren draw until the second half, when Gerard Braithwaite did score to put the visitors in the lead. But then again, Sean Dyche will be disappointed with himself and perhaps the rest of the team for conceding a late equalizer against a 10-man Brighton and Hove Albion, because after they had gotten the lead, I think in around the 71st or 73rd minute there, through Gerard Braithwaite, Billy Gilmour was given a straight red card for his dangerous tackle against Amadou Onana. So, reduced down to 10 men, you'd think it would give Everton quite the extra advantage to go ahead and nick this game, because they really needed the 3 points in their pursuit of getting out of that relegation threatening zone. But then it was never meant to be, as Lewis Dunk, the Brighton captain, did make wonders, scoring that late header against Jordan Pickford as the game finished in a 1-1 stalemate. So, either side missing chances. You had a clearance there. One of the key moments in the game, Tariq Lamptey had a goal line clearance of Abdoulaye Diakore's attempt on goal. So that was the other key chance. Both teams did miss the chance in terms of gaining all 3 points that could have moved them positions or closed gaps on the Premier League table. For Brighton, who closed the gap on this Manchester United side, but of course they did not make that count. But anyway, that was the final score at the Amex Stadium. And then at Selhurst Park, where Oliver Glasner was having his debut as the new manager for Crystal Palace, quite uh, having a perfect debut as his side beat Burnley by 3 goals to 0. Of course, Burnley suffered a red card as they were reduced to 10 men in the first half there. Josh Brownhill was the culprit there, given the red card. I did think it was a little too harsh when you look at the circumstances. I'm not particularly sure he was really the last man, but he did deny a goal scoring opportunity in the process of that foul. So they were reduced to 10 men, and of course, Crystal Palace did punish them in the second half there with goals from Chris Richards with a diving header in that one, while Jordan Ayew scored to make it 2-0, and then of course did concede a penalty as the game wore on, and Joan Philip Matete did step up and slotted the ball past James Trafford in Burnley's goal. Of course, Burnley's spell of poor results or a poor season does continue, because remember they came into this game on the back of a 5-0 defeat against Arsenal, and now they are conceding 3-0 against Crystal Palace. That means 8 goals are conceded in just 2 games. So that was the kind of game that we had there at Selhurst Park. Massive 3 points for Oliver Glasner's side as he kicked off his managerial career in the Premier League. And then moving forward, of course, at 8:30 p.m. we did have Bournemouth host Manchester City at the Vitality Stadium, and Manchester City once again won this one by a goal to 0. When you look back in their last couple of results, it's looked sort of a bit edgy or even narrow, to say the least, for them. When we go back, you can see they did beat Brentford as in the middle of the week, I think on Tuesday, by goal to 0. When you rewind it back, they did share the spoils with Chelsea in a 1-1 draw. They had the 2-0 victory against Everton, still quite thin, and then 3-1, I think, winning against Burnley in there. Again, when you rewind it a little back, then you had the 3-1 victory against Brentford still. So, Manchester City, in terms when the squad line always is not telling of their full story in terms of their full performances, but it is looking quite edgy every now and then for them in games. You can get the sort of feeling or sense that very soon or sooner or later they will be losing or dropping points. But it is Manchester City that we are speaking out. They do have the experience of being in this kind of stage of the season. They do know how to grind out a result. They do know how to come back from a losing position and win points, like as we saw them against Chelsea. Yes, it was just a point, but it was one that did count. And yesterday, it was Phil Foden that scored the only goal of the game as they beat Bournemouth by a goal to 0. Either side had missed chances. I did think that Bournemouth were quite brilliant when they came back for the second half. They kicked it off really well. Dominic Solanke there, I think, missing a chance for one of those. So it was an entertaining game overall if you're a neutral, but if you're a Manchester City fan, perhaps you would have hoped that they could have scored more. And if you are a Bournemouth fan, you will sort of feel a bit pained that you didn't manage to get at least a point out of this game. And then late on Saturday night at 11 p.m., Arsenal completed the perfect revenge against Newcastle. Remember, Newcastle did beat Arsenal in the first leg by a goal to 0 in what was a contentious victory. You had manager fuming, that was in Mikel Arteta, post that game for the way or in the manner in which Newcastle scored their only goal of the game through Anthony Gordon with Joelinton, having to push Gabriel Magalhaes to score, to provide the assist for that goal. And then at the moment leading to that goal, the ball had, sort of a pick from outside. It had gone slightly off the line. Even if it was less than an inch, it was still out. But then the referee, I think it was Marco Oliver, did think it didn't count. It was a game that you would have hoped that would have ended with Bruno Guimaraes receiving a red card, but then he did not because of his, dangerous tackles. One, I think, being against Jorginho, The other was against, I think, Declan Rice and or Martin Odegaard, one of those. So the Arsenal did come into this game hoping for the perfect revenge, and they also needed to motivate themselves following that 1-0 defeat in Porto during midweek in the UEFA Champions League, and they did just that, beating Newcastle by 4-1 to make it 15 goals scored in their last 3 fixtures and 25 goals overall in the opening 6 fixtures for 2024, which they have all won. The first goal was an own goal. I think it was Botman, but it was Gabriel Magalhaes who rose highest to head that ball, and then Loris Karius saved it. It bounced off another Newcastle defender, and then it did go beyond the line. Again, that defender, once it bounced off them, then it met the knee of I think Botman, and then it went over the line before Loris Karius could get a hold of it, and the referee had to rely on his goal line technology watch to award that goal. So Arsenal did get in the lead at that point in the game. And then moments later, we had Kai Havertz scoring to double that lead. It was, I think, William Saliba who gave Jorginho the ball in that build-up, and Jorginho did go with a long pass for Gabriel Martinelli, who perfectly controlled it, gave the cutback to Kai Havertz to slot in the second for the Gunners on the night. The first half, the Gunners did dominate all affairs. They had some missed opportunities in there. It could have been more than just 2-0. By halftime, it could have been 4, it could have been 5, because Newcastle weren't just up to the task on the day. And in the second half, Arsenal continued with that push, and I think Kai Havertz did provide the assist as Bukayo Saka did score another to make it 3-0. He's quite been in decent form. I think he has scored about 7 goals in the last 6 fixtures, including 2 braces, one against West Ham, another against Burnley, and he did score against Liverpool, I think, Nottingham Forest. He has scored against this Newcastle side. So it was 3-0, and then Jakub Kivio off a Declan Rice corner did head home to make it 4-0. Of course, that once they reached that scoreline, it gave manager Mikel Arteta room to sort of tinker his team to bring on some faces. From that point on, of course, that was the expectation, to try and rotate his team. He gave minutes to the likes of Emil Smith-Rowe, the likes of Rich Nelson, Leandro Trossard, Mohamed Elneny did come on for Jorginho, who looked like he had tired in this particular game at that point. So, but anyway, later on in the 85th minute, then former Arsenal midfielder Joe Willock did score to make it 4-1, and from there on, the other, I think, Emil Smith-Rowe had an opportunity that was cleared off the line. Could have been 5-1, but it was never meant to be. It only ended at 4-1 as Arsenal recorded their 6th straight victory in the Premier League. But so that was it from the Emirates Stadium. Another brilliant performance from the Gunners. I hope it will inspire them to continue fight on in their build for the title, and hope it will inspire them to have the perfect revenge against FC Porto, who they will meet next week, but one in the return leg of the UEFA Champions League. So that was the action from Saturday on match day 26, and match day 26 does continue today with one game, and still on Monday in Monday night football. But on Super Sunday, it's Wolves at 4:30 p.m. when they do host Sheffield United. It will be a case of Gary O'Neill versus Chris Wilder. We all know that Sheffield United are not in the best of form, despite having registered just a win recently. And then West Ham on Monday night will host Brentford in that other fixture that will complete match day 26. So that was all the action, and let's now have a look at what some of those results meant as far as the table is concerned in this Premier League standings. The Manchester City's victory against Bournemouth kept them in second place, but just with just a point behind leaders Liverpool, who have 60 points. Manchester City second, 59 points. All teams have played 26 games at this point. Arsenal third after that victory still with 58 points, two behind the leaders in Liverpool. All sides have played 26 games. Aston Villa do come fourth on the table with 52 points after their 4-2 victory against Nottingham Forest, while Tottenham, in spite of not playing over the weekend, retained their 5th position with 47 points. Manchester United, in spite of their loss, retained their 6th position with 44 points, while Brighton at 39 points, following that draw with Everton in 7th place. Had they won, they could have closed that gap, like I said, on Manchester United following their loss. And then Newcastle are 8th with 37 points. West Ham are 9th with 36 points. These ones do have a chance to leapfrog Newcastle if they do manage to beat Brentford on a Monday night. And Chelsea are 10th on the table with 35 points. Wolves 35 points in 11th place. Fulham at 32 points in 12th place, so they didn't move in spite of their victory. Crystal Palace are 13th with 28 points, just as much as the 14th placed Bournemouth on that table. Brentford are 15th with 25 points, while Nottingham Forest are 16th with 24 points. Everton 17th with 21 points, while Luton are 18th with 20 points. Burnley and Sheffield complete the bottom two with 13 points apiece. So that's the result from there. That's what the table looks like after those Saturday results. But like I did mention, today we do have the Carabao Cup final between Chelsea and Liverpool at Wembley Stadium. It is a Chelsea versus a Liverpool fixture at 6:30 p.m. East African time for those that will be interested in this fixture. Looking back, I think the first time these two sides met in the Premier League, that was, I think, on the opening day or match day one of the Premier League. It was a 1-all draw there. But Liverpool did beat Chelsea in the return leg of the Premier League by 4-1. So those have been the two meetings between these two sides so far this season. Now they do meet in the finals of the Carabao Cup. But both sides do come into this fixture with a huge number of injuries. Kicking off things with Chelsea, they won't be without their senior defender in Thiago Silva. They won't be without Richard James with a hamstring injury. Wesley Fofana still struggling with a knee injury. Marco Cucurella has an ankle injury, while Leslie Ugochukwu has a hamstring injury. Romeo Lavia is still struggling with his thigh, as well as Benoit Badiashile with a muscle issue there. So Canary Chukwu Emeka is the other on that injury list for this Chelsea side. While for Liverpool, it's unless things change for them at the last moment leading into this game. But last I checked, they had quite a number of their senior players absent, the likes of Thiago Alcantara, Alex Ramsey-Baker, Trent Alexander-Arnold with a knee injury there, a hamstring for Dominic Szoboszlai. You have a Darwin Núñez struggling with the knock. You have a Curtis Jones with an ankle injury, a knee injury for Diego Jota. So Ben Diop, as well as Joel Matip, all of those players injured. So I think Liverpool will have to have the perfect fixes if they are ready to compete in this game. The advantage for this Liverpool side going into the final is that they still have a lethal front forward led by Mohamed Salah, who I think has 16 or 15 goals in the Premier League so far this season. Now you have Mo Salah, you have a Luis Diaz there available, and then of course you have a Cody Gakpo. These players are all available, and then in midfield you still have a McAllister is available. You have a Ryan Gravenberch, you have a Wataru Endo, who can really make things happen for you. And in defense, Robertson is available. The captain, that's Virgil van Dijk. You have Ibrahim Konate. I think those can form a squad that is strong enough to compete against this Chelsea side. For the side of Chelsea, Raheem Sterling, Nicholas Jackson, Christopher Nkunku, all these are players that are capable of hurting the Liverpool side in the final. Cole Palmer has 10 goals to his name, I think, with eight assists in the Premier League already for this Chelsea side that haven't really looked decent in the Premier League, but have competed well in these cup competitions, including the FA Cup, in which they are still competing. That midfield, Enzo Fernandez, Conor Gallagher, Moises Caicedo, all those players are available for selection to try and compete. Of course, in defense, Malo Gusto, Levi Colwill, these are, you had an Axel Disasi who put on the man of the match performance against Manchester City, all available for selection. Of course, Robert Sanchez is back in that call. It could be Petrovic, but whichever they go with is still there. That's good for them. Ben Chilwell. So when you look at both sides, yes, in spite of their injuries, they do have squads that are broad enough to still help them compete. Of course, things would have been much better for them if they had all those players that are injured available. But unfortunately, we do not work in the ideal world. We do work in the realistic world where in sport players do get injured every now and then, and then Mauricio Pochettino as well as Jurgen Klopp will have both to contend with the injuries in their squads. Perhaps they could give some few injections. Who needs this title more? In my opinion, both managers really need it. I think for all the investment that Chelsea have made it, totaling to over £1 billion, I think they would want to get something out of it. At least this season, any piece of silverware could work the magic for Mauricio Pochettino as far as his future with the Blues is concerned. Not that it is really under threat, but of course there are question marks all over it, especially from some sections of the fans who think he has not done enough with the resources he's been availed with to try and rise this Chelsea side. So he could really use this title. For the side of Jurgen Klopp, he is signing out of Liverpool at the end of the season, so any trophy he wins for them as he signs out will be quite magnificent. So both sides or both managers badly need any piece of silverware that they can get their hands on. But for the sake of Chelsea, Chelsea I think do need it more because they're basically competing for two trophies. That's the Carabao Cup, for which they're already in the final, and perhaps the FA. They are nowhere near winning the Premier League, and they are not in the UEFA competitions. Whereas for Liverpool will be competing in the Europa League. They are top of the Premier League table, so they can go ahead and win that. They're still in the FA Cup. So Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp also has the opportunity to sign out with a quadruple, win the Premier League, win the Europa League, win the FA, as well as the Carabao Cup, and you go from one step of hero or legend to another if there is any other step beyond those. When you sign out with such kind of silverware as you kiss goodbye to the words of Merseyside. So that's it for me, for us here on the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Thank you for taking the time to watch content. Thank you for those that do share. I do appreciate the time and effort that you put in. Have a blessed Sunday, and I'll see you next time.